Two. I think we're live. So, hola a todos. ¿Cómo estáis? Espero que estéis muy bien. Estamos aquí una vez más haciendo nuestra sesión en directo, nuestra live, Cambly Live. Y es un placer estar aquí. Bueno, una vez más, soy Tiago, encantado. Y esta es nuestra plataforma de Cambly. Para quien todavía no conocen, Cambly es una plataforma para que podáis aprender inglés de una manera súper diferente, súper personalizada. Entonces, creo que os va a gustar y creo que ya mucha gente ya conoce esto, pero y los que todavía no conocen, aquí abajo lo estamos poniendo un código que estamos haciendo en nuestras lives, pero se queda activo solo durante 3 horas, ¿vale? Entonces, 35% de descuento aquí abajo en este enlace, ¿vale? Y aquí abajo también en la descripción hay el enlace para el profile del tutor de hoy, ¿vale? Que es Paul. Y hacer una cosa muy increíble. Si queréis hacer preguntas a él o querer tomar una clase con él, aquí abajo hay también en la descripción el enlace de su perfil en Cambly, ¿vale? Entonces, si tenéis dudas, poned aquí al lado cualquier cosa que queráis preguntar. Vamos aquí a conocer un poco y hablar un poco de todo, de diferentes culturas, de diferentes partes de Latinoamérica para Estados Unidos, de la gente que quiere salir de Latinoamérica para Estados Unidos y al revés también. Entonces va a ser algo muy interesante y creo que vamos a aprender mucho hoy, ¿vale? So, now we're going to English, and thank you, Paul, for being here with us. Thank you. It's very interesting. I think it will be a very interesting talk. And then, I mean, for everybody who don't know you yet, I mean, can you introduce yourself a little bit for us?
Sure. Thank you, Tiago. My name is Paul, Paul Selby. I'm originally from the United States. I'm from the state of Tennessee, which is in the south. It's right around in the region with Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana, Texas, Georgia, all those states right there, Florida. That's the south of the United States. I grew up in Nashville, Tennessee, which is a big music city. And I learned how to play guitar when I was 13 years old, and I just grew up as a musician. I was always in bands, and then I eventually started songwriting in Nashville, and I lived there for over 12 years. And then I wanted something different. I wanted to start traveling. I wanted to do something a little different, and so I ended up moving to Guadalajara, Mexico. Got my teacher's degree and started working. And started teaching there in the second biggest city of Mexico. And then after about a year, I was going to go back to the United States, but I got a job offer, and I continued working, and I just kept working, kept teaching, and just really developed an affinity for teaching, and just fell in love with it, fell in love with Mexico, and now I've been living here for the past 11 years.
Wow.
And I've been, I'm a teacher at the University of Guadalajara in Vallarta. It's called Costa. And I teach at language campuses as well, and with Cambly.
Wow, that's super amazing. I mean, if there's anyone from Mexico here, just put in the comments and say if you know. Look, we just received one. I'm at Guadalajara as well. So I mean, go to the university and talk with Paul. I mean, you guys will be very. I mean, your neighbor.
I live in Vallarta. I live in Vallarta. So I work at a language campus with Guadalajara. It's called Prolex. I'm sure a lot of students have heard of Prolex.
Wow, that's nice. That's nice. So you guys already can know if there is anyone more from Mexico, just put the thumbs up there. So it will be a very interesting talk here. And if you guys have any questions related to any different cultures, I mean anything, just ask us here, and then we will do our best to answer those, right? Because sometimes it's difficult, sometimes they ask some difficult questions, but we'll do our best to answer those. And let me ask you one thing. There's a lot of people who always ask, and especially if we are in the other way around, right? I think I know a lot of people who want to move to United States, and I think you receive a lot this question. So why you decided to move from the United States to Mexico? What was your decision making or your mindset? I know.
That was, that's the most question I get asked because, and they preface by people usually preface by saying exactly what you said. A lot of people move to the United States from Mexico or from different countries. But why did you leave the United States and go to Mexico? And I think initially it was because living in Nashville, I had friends that were from Mexico. They were from Ciudadlan, which is like this really small city on the border of the state of Jalisco and Colima. I've never been there, but I knew about it. We talked about it all the time, and so I already had this connection with the culture. So I really wanted to go to Mexico and just experience it and kind of get it into my veins, and that's why I chose it initially. And my intention was to get my teacher's degree, but some people were like, well, maybe you could go to Spain, you could go to Madrid, or you could go to Mexico, and I think that's why I ultimately chose Mexico, because I was already kind of familiar with part of the culture, and having friends that were already from there, I think that's what made me choose that location specifically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's something. If you already know someone there, it's if you have friends and it's always easy when you move to a place and you have friends there. So it's definitely something.
Right, of course.
And
I had a car, so I drove down there. And this was like before like the Google Maps and all that stuff. So I just kind of got in the car and just drove. I didn't really know where I was. I knew where I was going to, what city I was going to, but I was so unfamiliar with the landscape of Mexico. Wow. You know, it's so vast. The country is so vast. So that's another reason why too, because I had a car and I wanted to travel too. So that was a means of travel.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's interesting. How it was when you like went out from the United States and then arrived, and you got lost in some way in the road.
Yeah, I got lost a few times. I got turned around. Well, there's two main highways in Mexico, so it's kind of hard to get lost because they all kind of go to the same location eventually. There's the Libre and there's the Cota. And the Cota, of course, you have to pay tolls to pass through. But the Libre it's free, and so you don't have the toll bridges that they have. But the Libre takes longer. It's more of a scenic route, and so it might add like 2 or 3 hours onto your trip. But yeah, I did get turned around a couple of times initially. The first city I came into was the city of Monterrey, and that city it's a very big city, and I think I got kind of turned around leaving that city. But luckily everything was okay. I didn't get completely lost, and couldn't find where I was going. But it took me, once I got into Mexico, it took me about 2 days to get to Guadalajara. And then it took me about 2 days to get to Nuevo Laredo. So it was about a 4-day drive altogether.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's nice. And I mean, Mexico, there's like, they have like the beautiful landscapes, right? So it's...
Yeah, it's very good. You know, Mexico is once you get past Monterrey, it's just like it's just this huge mountains and valleys, and there's a lot of vastness to Mexico between cities. A lot of kind of untouched areas. You know, it's kind of like if you think of like how the state of Texas is. Texas is a huge state. It takes you about an hour and a half. I mean, a day and a half to drive through the whole state when you're driving cross country. So Mexico kind of reminded me like that, but except just more beautiful landscape. It was. I loved it. And I drove back. I've done it. I've taken that trip twice. I've driven down, driven back, driven down, driven back. So now I know my way around. I can navigate my way around Mexico now, around the country, which is pretty interesting.
That's nice. That's nice. And let me ask you something that Probably. I think so. Before that, I want to say hello because I'm seeing a lot of people are saying from Colombia, Dominican Republic, and Ecuador, and so hello guys, everybody. So it's very nice to meet you all and have you
I
here.
guess.
And so before that, I want you to what's to ask one more like this question that I am very curious about. That is, what is the thing in the Latinos culture, let's say like that you like the most? What's the it's the food, it's the way of living. What I mean, what does you think it's interesting and different from the American way of life, especially in Nashville, let's say like that, as you were there as well.
I think what I like about it. I don't know about it. I like about. I don't know if it's the most because there's so many different spectrums. There's so many aspects of the culture that I really like. But one of the things I think really attracts me to the culture, the Latino culture specifically, is that I'm from the South, and in the South of the United States, I grew up in it's very family oriented. Our family's very close, and we do a lot of things together with cousins and siblings, and when they grow up with their family. So Mexico is like that. Mexico is very family oriented, and they spend a lot of time with their family, and they do a lot of things together as a family. And I think that really attracted to me. That when you're a stranger to a new place, or especially to a new country, and you decide to kind of throw in all your chips, and this is going to be my new home, and this is where I'm going to live. That was definitely some comfort to me to feel that love, because I'm so far away from my family.
Mm-hmm.
All my family, they still live in the United States. All my siblings and my parents. So that whole being very family oriented, I was really attracted to that. I like that a lot about the culture, and of course the food. I mean, the food is incredible. If you like tacos, it really doesn't get better than that here in Mexico.
That we just received a comment, a question here as well from Kaiser Mauricio. So hello, and he asked exactly about that. What about the Mexican food? You like it?
I love it. It took me a little while to get used to like the diet. The diet in Mexico and the diet in the United States is completely different. And so it took my system. I had to really adapt and kind of get immersed into that diet, because I think food is more refined in the United States. There's so much more filler, and here everything is just kind of like farm to plate. You got markets on every corner, and so everything is it's very fresh and like free range. So it's better for you in my opinion. But yeah, I love the food. I liked Mexican food before I moved here, but Mexican food in the United States and Mexican food in Mexico are completely different from each other, in my opinion. But yeah, love the food. Love tacos. Love pozole. I eat Mexican food a lot. I make it at the house now. I used to eat at the taquerias all the time, but now I know the recipes. I can make it at home, and so now mostly the Mexican food that I eat, I make it here at my house, and we eat it at home.
That's interesting. And you like? I mean, I had a one experience with Mexican food that was kind of. I love Mexican food, but one day when I was living in California, I went to a Mexican place there, and it was funny because the lady came to me and said, "Oh, what do you want? Do you want like the extra chili, pepper, and sauce, and I don't know, super hot?" And I was like, "Oh, okay, so that's the thing. That's traditional, and that's what you like the most." And she was like, "No, yeah, that's okay. It's a little hot, but I mean, it's okay." And when it came, it was like, yeah. I mean, I was like all red and was like, "Come on, I'm sweating." And she was like, "No, it's not that hard." And I mean, come on, how it's not that hard? It's super hot. And I love chili.
Yeah.
I love pepper. So I mean, it was something that, and she was like eating, and she came and ate and sit at the table with us. It was amazing, and she was a super amazing woman. She was the owner, I think, for the small place, and she was eating
my
that.
like yeah, I know. Yeah, my partner's like that. She's Mexican, and spicy to her is different than spicy to me. I like spicy food, but I find the older that I get, the less spicy, the better. When I was younger, I used to eat spicy food all the time, but yeah, spicy is a little different here. You know, I know it's not that spicy, but then to me, it's very spicy. Salsa mulata is a salsa here that I really like a lot. It's made from a chile de árbol. They call it rata, and it has a really good flavor. And I like that salsa a lot, but it can be pretty spicy. You have to be careful. Well, I do at least.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think you already know a lot. At the time, I was like, okay, I want to try everything. So, and she was like, no, try this. So you love it. And I was like, come on. And she was just eating normally. Like,
yeah.
I was like, come on, I'm sweating all red. It's not normal. I mean, how can you do that? And she was laughing at me, you know, like she was like just laughing at myself. Like, come on, it's okay. But it was super fun. It was an amazing, and it's actually delicious. So I love Mexican food as well. So
yeah, I do too. Chile rellenos is like one of my favorite dish, and we make it here at the house a lot with rice, and it's and tortillas. It's delicious.
And it's interesting because I met some Americans here in Europe, and they most of the time they come here and they're like, oh, okay, so do you know any place to go, any place to eat, and eventually they will ask if we know some Mexican place. And it's amazing how Americans love the Mexican food. I think it's so traditional now in the culture in America that you eat the Mexican food that it's something that all around the world that they ask for Mexican restaurants as well. Do you feel something like that? What do you think about this and the way the Mexican culture is now into the American culture as well?
Yeah, I love it. I mean, it's completely integrated into the Mexican culture or into the American culture, and I think that a big part of that is the food and is the restaurant, because everybody loves Mexican food, right? I've never met anyone in the United States who are like, Mexican food, what? Nah. But yeah, and I think a big part of that is integrating that part of the culture into other cultures. You know, that's. I mean, even with any culture, but yeah, especially with Mexican food, because the food is known, you know, as very, very delicious, and everybody knows it. Everybody can relate to it. Yeah, it's very good. The Mexican restaurants that I grew up with in the United States were more like Tex-Mex. That's what they call them. They're like Tex, because it's not exactly like Mexican food in the country of Mexico that you would have access to. It's a little different, but I love that food too because I grew up on that. So I love Tex-Mex and I love authentic Mexican food. So I definitely agree with that.
So we received something interesting here as well, like from Nicolas. So hi, Nicolas, and he asked something.
Hi, Nicolas.
He asked about, do you know anything about Colombia? Have you heard about the Colombia culture? Do you like it? And
I've only heard just a little bit. I don't know that very much about Colombia, but I've only heard just a little bit about the culture, but I am intrigued into it. I have had Colombian food before in the United States, and I liked it a lot. But as far as like kind of being around the culture a lot or being introduced to the culture, not so much. There are Colombians that live here in Vallarta where I live, but very few. I don't meet too many. But and there's no Colombian restaurants here, unfortunately. But yeah, I know very little about Colombia, but I've always wanted to go. Always wanted to travel to Colombia. And as far as South American countries go, for sure.
That's
I know. Well, I know in Bogota there isn't there's something about Colombia, and maybe Nicolas can help me. There's like these canyons that you can go down into, that you drop like 50 feet, 100 feet down into the earth, and it's supposed to be it's very beautiful, and it's kind of like a different aesthetic. It's a different way to do kind of like the tourist activities in Colombia.
Yeah,
that's something I've heard a little bit about.
He just put it here, bandeja paisa. Bandeja paisa? Is that correct, Nicolas? I think it is, right? And yeah, I think
I think so.
I think it should be amazing. I mean, one of my best friends here, he's from Colombia, and he's from Barranquilla, and I love the Colombian culture because it's so, especially if I know a little bit about it because of him, but it's more like he loves to dance, so how he dance and the salsa and the reggaeton and all those things, it's amazing. So I never been in Colombia, but I really want to go there. And it's even funny to think that it's not actually a lot of Colombian restaurants, and especially here, for example, in Madrid, I know one Colombian restaurant, but I mean, if you compare with Mexican food, you can find a lot of restaurants from Mexican food, and
right. It's in every small town in every state in the country.
I mean,
Mexican restaurants.
So Nicolas,
but Colombian food, you don't get exposed to Colombian food unless you live in like a big city like San Francisco or New York or Los Angeles. If you live in like a big metropolitan area, then you'll get exposed to more Colombian food. Even in New Orleans, I've eaten at a Colombian restaurant in New Orleans. Another thing I've heard about Colombia is I've just heard they're super sweet, super nice people, very friendly to outsiders and people from other countries that come through and visit. Sorry about that. And I've always wanted to go to Colombia too. That's my top 3 South American countries to go to.
Yeah, I think it's amazing. We just received here. So hi, Alejandra. She's from Barranquilla, and I think it's an amazing. But he's living here in Spain now. So, but I mean, it's an amazing. So, a shout out for everybody from Colombia and Barranquilla, and I think it's an amazing. One day we'll be there. One day. And let me ask you another thing. That it's something that always kept a little bit my attention as well into moving to another city, and it's in terms of what was the most difficult part into moving there, like in terms of adapting to the different culture. What was the most difficult part for you?
I think maybe being away from my family is for that was probably the most difficult part, to know that because my family, they don't really travel that much. They do, but not very often, and when they do, they don't take like big trips. So I knew that to see them, it would be up to me that I would have to go back to the United States if I wanted to see them. So I think that's probably the most difficult thing. I think initially I was so ready and prepared mentally. Like I prepared, 6-7 months in advance. I knew exactly like what I was going to do and where I was going. Besides, driving a car and just hoping for the best. But in my mind, I was mentally prepared. So just traveling and things that come with living in a new country, just the normal difficulties that can happen. A complete language barrier. I did not speak Spanish when I first moved to Mexico, so that was a little difficult, trying to pantomime my way through the cities until I got to the university where I studied, where I was getting my teacher's degree. But yeah, I would just say that, and ultimately being away from my family, because it's there. It's not that far away.
Mm-hmm.
We're in the same continent, but still, it's far enough to not be able to see them as much as I used to.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I can imagine that. Now my family is living, and part of my family, like my mom and my dad, they're living in Barcelona. I'm now in Madrid, and I have part of my family in Brazil. So it's kind of in Brazil, it's quite difficult to see them, but I can often go to Barcelona and see my dad and my mom as well because they're quite close, and my youngest
Right.
brother. So, but I have a brother in Brazil, like my grandmother is in Brazil. So it's kind of a uh, the family thing is sometimes it's difficult for us to be far away in some way. But I mean, it's we have to to adapt.
Yeah, and you adapt and you get used to it, and then you have your life in Madrid, so and you probably really love that life and kind of covet that life.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel the same way here. I mean, this is my life now. But I remember the first time I went back to the United States after living here for about 4 years. I was maybe thinking about going back to the United States and living, and I just couldn't do it. I mean, I kept wanting to go back to Mexico. It's like my heart was there already. So I was like, oh man, so I'm not going to be able to come back to the United States. I'm going to have to go back to where I've been for the last 4 years. So that's what I knew. That was a good test. Like going back and thinking that maybe I was going to move back. And then the whole time after about a week, the whole time in the United States, after visiting with my family, I was ready to go back. I was like, oh, okay, I need to go back to Mexico because that's where I live now. So that was a good test.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's very good test actually because if you go when you go back, it's kind of a like, oh my god, should I stay or should I go, right? Something that.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And I was able to detect that very early on, which I'm very thankful for that. I'm glad there was no confusion. Some people might be torn. Oh, should I stay or should I go? Like you said, I was. I knew what I wanted to do. So
that's interesting, and it kept my attention. One thing when you were explaining to us that how was when you were like this language barrier. How was learning Spanish? It was difficult at the beginning. What do you think what was the most difficult part for that in this particular thing, right? In learning Spanish.
It was difficult at the beginning. I think partly because I'm an English teacher, so half of the day I'm speaking English to students and to my coworkers who were who mostly spoke Spanish, or Spanish was their mother tongue. They wanted to speak English with me too. They wanted to practice their English. So I spoke English a lot when I first moved to Mexico, and I was like, man, I really need to speak Spanish so I can adapt. And so it was difficult at first. It was difficult to learn the language, but I never took a class, but I did conversations like we do on Cambly, and I put myself out there and to build up my confidence. And I would read books, dictionaries. The Spanish to English dictionary is very helpful. You see the words phonetically, and they put them in context for you so you can build up some sort of vocabulary. So you can have more of just like a conversation in a restaurant or at an OXXO or something like that. So, just over time, practicing, hearing it. Hearing is very important. If you hear a different language that you're unfamiliar with all the time, it really helps. I remember one time I was in Michoacan, and I got a chance to travel, and I was going through Morelia and Pátzcuaro and Uruapan and all those places. Very beautiful part of the country. And I realized, like, after like a week, I was like, man, I haven't spoken one English word, one sentence in English. I haven't even heard in a whole week. I've been speaking nothing but Spanish and hearing nothing but Spanish. So that helped a lot. And I think just experiences like that and just being dedicated and immersed in the culture, over time, I was able to speak it, and now I can speak it pretty well.
That's good. It's something that it's. Do you think, because it's something that kept. Oh, I always think about these as well, because when we are trying to learn, especially for example here in Spain, sometimes when we meet someone from the United States or from England or from Australia or whatever, like native speakers in English, we definitely want to talk in English, and we never actually thought about it. Sometimes like these people are trying to learn Spanish as well, and then like we should try to make a like share these things, and I did that with a friend, and it was pretty well. He was like speaking in English because he's from England, and he was like, so I need to practice Spanish. So let's do something. I will say in English, and he will reply to me in Spanish, and then we have a conversation like that. And if he made some mistakes, we're like, okay, so you can do that, and if I made some mistake, he would like just, oh, you can switch these word to these word and whatever. It was like it was a thing because we always have these little kind of a mindset. I don't know if we listen to someone from England or United States, like, oh, hello, how are you, and try to just speak English and practice our English, and that would do.
That's very important. Correcting, if you speak with someone and in their language, it's important that they correct you for sure. Being corrected is very important. And I would tell my friends that all the time. Please correct me if I'm saying something out of context or mispronouncing a word. Yeah, I agree with that. That helps a lot. That's a good strategy right there when you're learning a new language.
Yeah,
being corrected is very important.
And don't be afraid, right? To just speak.
Yeah,
I mean, you have
that's
to.
Right. Don't be afraid to be corrected, right?
Because,
yes.
To make mistakes. Don't be afraid to make mistakes, right? Don't be afraid to make mistakes. I mean, it will.
Exactly.
It's perfectly normal.
Exactly.
You are learning, so you have to.
Right. Yeah, you're going to make mistakes. I still make mistakes. You know, after living here for 11 years, I know that I still make mistakes sometimes. And I can catch myself and be like, oh, well, I didn't mean to. Did I say it like that? I meant to say it differently. But yeah, always learning.
Always learning. And it came through. We just received actually we received a comment here that's quite interesting. It has related to that. It's from Macosta. Macosta, I think it's that, right? Macosta, and she or he, I don't know if, I mean, he's asking about what do you think is the greatest difficulty for Spanish speakers to speak English?
I think like what we're talking about, having the confidence or maybe being afraid to speak it, or being uncomfortable because they're not confident enough to speak it, and also in regard to what we're talking about, just having that having someone to speak it with. You know, a lot of my students, when they here at the university, when they go home or when they leave my classroom, they're speaking Spanish, you know, all the rest of the day, and when they get home with their family, and in the morning when they wake up, and then when they come back into my class, then they speak English. So I would say, yeah, those two things: you know, being able to build your confidence, and so where you feel like that, you know, that you don't have too much fear of speaking, and then being able to have an outlet to speak English. It's in Mexico. It's very hard. Even though I live in kind of almost a bilingual city, there's a lot of tourism in this city, but it's still hard to find someone to speak English with outside of class or outside of Cambly or whatever your platform is when to speak English. So I would say those two things would be the initial difficulties of learning from a Spanish speaker learning English.
Yeah, definitely. So guys, don't be afraid to make mistakes. And we just received it's Marcela. So hi, Marcela. So
hey, Marcela.
thanks for the question. And You have to
Yeah,
practice,
thanks, bro.
Marcela. You have to practice. Don't forget to practice. And don't be afraid to make mistakes. Don't be afraid to just talk to the people. And if you know
Right.
someone in your city that like is trying to, it's from the United States and is trying to learn Spanish as well, just try to do these things that I did with my friend. Just like said to him, "Oh, I'm going to speak in your language, and you are going to speak in my language. We are going to have the conversation like that, and see how it goes."
That's right.
And or I try
That's
to
right.
like today we're going to like today is the Spanish day. We're just going to speak in Spanish, and tomorrow it will be the English day. So I don't know.
Right.
Try different things, but both of you try different things that both of you can learn the language. So I think it will be interesting.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, right. It was super fun, you know. It's like, and
Yeah.
yeah, especially because he was like from England. It's a completely different accent, and he was always
Right.
trying to correct me, but the way I talk, because he was like, "Oh, you are too American. You need to, you need to speak the proper English." And he was always trying to me
That's
like, "It's not
funny.
a water. It's like
Right.
water." And but it
Right.
was super fun. And we shared an apartment together, and it was amazing.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, my one of my best friends is from London, and he lives in Sayulita, which is a little small beach town about 45 minutes north of here. And he's married. His wife is Mexican, and they own like this little juice bar in
Mhm.
Sayulita. But yeah, he's one of my good friends, I love British culture too. I grew up on like on British sitcoms and stuff like that. There's a there's an old series called The Mighty Boosh that's like my favorite, one of my favorite comedy British sketch comedies of all
Mhm.
time. So, and me and him, we try to talk every day. We don't see each other much anymore because of COVID-19, but he's a really good friend of mine. But
Mhm.
yeah, it's different. Like listening to all the different nuances, and of course the different vocabulary from British English to American English.
Yeah,
Very
definitely.
different.
And you guys should know that sometimes we on our social media on Cambly we put the differences between and some words that is different in England and in the United States. So sometimes it's quite interesting. So just follow us on Instagram that
Right.
you can see a lot of these little interesting content that we are creating. So the differences between words and British and American English. So, but I think
Right. And
that
I think. Oh, I'm sorry.
no, please continue.
No, I was just to add to what you were saying. I think because the cult like entertainment and the culture, British culture has had such an influence on the United States, and the
Hmm.
United States, American culture has had such an influence on the British culture that we know like in somewhere in our subconscious we already know from growing up and hearing that and seeing it on television or in music or on the radio, we know that we already know the words, even though we don't use them.
Hmm.
So it's not hard to understand.
Yeah.
It's even though how different the English language is between American English and British English, it's not hard to understand. You can understand each other perfectly,
Hmm.
but you just don't use the same. It's not the same dialect, obviously.
Yeah, definitely. I would just add that from people from Scotland, it is quite difficult to understand them.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it
That accent's a little stronger. That one's a little
whoa,
harder to understand.
that is
Yeah.
his like his friend of mine. He had some friends from actually his father's from Scotland, and he had some friends there. And then there is a time that I met two of like a couple from there, and it was super hard for me to
Uh-huh.
understand them. It was like
Okay.
they were speaking like in first very fast and a very difficult and it was super difficult for me at the beginning, but then I got used to it. But it was
Uh-huh.
difficult at the beginning. So in Scotland, it is a tricky accent if they speak very close and very like traditional way
Right.
of thinking of speaking. Even though
Right.
because they were from a small town in Scotland, the north of Scotland, so it was like Yeah, I mean, it was difficult, but I got
Yeah,
used to it, and it was interesting to learn these accent as well. So it's quite interesting.
right.
And
That's another reason why I'd like to travel to Colombia and travel to
yeah,
Spain and to Argentina just to get a different dialect, just to hear the Spanish language spoken differently. Because I'm so used to hearing how people speak it in this part of the world. So I would love to be able to hear different dialects. And you can when you travel within Mexico, of course, state to state, people have a different dialects, just like in any country. But I would really like to. That's another reason why I've been wanting to travel so much to those other Spanish-speaking countries.
yeah, definitely. That's actually something that sometimes I'm kind of used now because even with Cambly, we're working with a lot of countries from in Latin America as well. But there is a time that it was in some depending of the place there was some very difficult ways of speaking the Spanish, and it was sometimes was very difficult for me to understand them as well. And
Right.
because here in Spain we speak a very like I would not say closed way of thing. I don't know, but we use a lot our tongue, and it's not the way that the people speak in Latin America, for example. So I don't know. Let me say
Right.
for Barcelona, for example, we don't say like Barcelona, we say like Barcel. We use the I don't know. It's
Yeah, you
Barcelona.
use the like in English when we use the th sound in English.
Uh huh.
I hear that in the Spanish dialect from
Yeah.
Barcelona. So yeah, they do that.
Yeah, so it's quite a different way of speaking, and we yeah it is different, but it's the I think it's the same thing with the English in America and the English in the UK. I think it's the basic the language is the same. It's just the
Right.
accent and some different words that we use, but normally it's the same. And now I think everybody can understand. I think almost everything. I think it's more difficult for the Latinos in Latin America to understand Spanish from here that the other way around, because here we consume a lot of the Latino culture as well, for even especially in music. So the reggaeton
Right.
here it's like everywhere. So all
Yeah.
the guys from reggaeton here are huge. So we listen to a lot. We consume a lot of these with these culture. You can see some Mexican telenovelas and it's yeah. I think we consume a lot of these culture here. So, but it's
Yeah, for
definitely
sure.
interesting. And it's even each country there is the particular thing that it's make the country special. So yeah, I mean it should be very interesting to go from each of those countries in Latin America as well.
Right. That's a big outlet. If anyone's learning a new language, is music. We don't really put so much emphasis on it because music is always there, and we all grow up with music. And for the most part, everybody loves music or loves a certain type of music. But learning a new language and incorporating music into that, it has a really big impact. Even if you don't really understand the lyrics or the words because you haven't been able to perfect the language yet. There's still a feeling there with
Mm-hmm.
music and in a different language. So
Yeah.
something that you can adapt to right away, right? Something that you can relate to,
Mm-hmm.
just because it has that human element, right? Music has that great human element. So
Yeah.
and passion and all that, especially if you like to dance. That's like a great introduction into another world, into a different language.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, definitely. And it's something that it received a question here that as you're a musician, so and Nicolas again, he's so thanks Nicolas for asking those questions. I think it's amazing. It's quite
Thank you.
tricky. It's quite tricky. Let's let's see what do you think. And he asked, what about the music from Mexico? is that better than the American music for you? Which one is the best? So that's
Ooh, well, I don't know. Better. That better. That's a strong word.
yeah.
But they're definitely influential on me, which is saying a lot for being a musician. I was already kind of influenced a little bit with Spanish music before I moved to Mexico. Guitar is my first instrument that I learned, and I learned how to play acoustic guitar. And so I went from acoustic to electric, and then back to acoustic, and then classical guitar. But I love mariachi. I love mariachi music. I love the feeling of mariachi. I love the guitar. Lyrics, the passion. I love all that about mariachi music. I don't know. It's there's elements of Latino music that I really love a lot, and it's rooted in guitar music. Mexican music is deeply originally rooted in guitar music. You go back to the Huapanga music and the Veracruz music stuff. That's just someone just banging a guitar and keeping the beat on the floor with their feet and stuff like that. I'm really interested in. I'm really interested in music like that. Since guitar was my first instrument, I love any kind of just basic stripped down guitar music. And mariachi kind of started from that, and then added the violin and the strings and the horns and all that stuff. So yeah. I don't. It's better. That's hard to say because I grew up. I grew up with my parents' records. So I grew up with Elvis and Roy Orbison and Johnny Cash and the Pretenders and just all those great bands growing up. And then when I started getting into the Beatles and the Rolling Stones and then Led Zeppelin and all that had a big influence on me. And then of course, I'm from the early 90s, so REM and The Cure and the Pixies and the Smiths and all those bands are a huge influence on me as well. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I just I look at Spanish music. It wasn't my first introduction to music, but it's a big part of my musical experience for sure. And you can see that. I think you can hear it a little bit in my music when I write, because I still write songs. Mm-hmm. So I think that still comes out, especially after living here as long as I have. I can't help but not be influenced by the musical culture here still. So, better. That's a hard word. I don't know. I don't know which is better. I don't know which one would be better.
Yeah, especially with influences like that, it's quite difficult. Yeah, I think better is the tricky word, and
it's a tricky word. But I mean, I think as far as guitar players go, that's hard to say too, because there's great guitar players all over the world. But the guitar players down here they're no joke, man. They're usually at the top of their game when you see someone out in a bar or a club or playing a guitar, they know how to play. And same with if you're in Tennessee and you go to Nashville or Memphis and you go to any bar on the corner, the guitar player in that bar is going to be pretty proficient at his craft. So yeah, I just like that. I like the whole the camaraderie of musicianship. So
definitely, and I mean it's something that I'm interested about it, because Nashville, it became very famous, I would say even worldwide, because of the country music, right? Because I think there is even a series, I don't know where it is, I don't know if it's HBO or Netflix or whatever, it's like Nashville, and it's the way how this country girl would become a very superstar in the country music. And the country music super.
Yeah, that's right.
And I
forgot all about that show.
Yeah, but I mean, it became very famous. And I would like to know that it's the country music in Nashville is super hard. It's the number one music, do you say, that it plays there?
Oh, for sure. You can ask any musician in Nashville, even if they're even if they're a very well-known rock musician or whatever genre they're in, country is the thing. That's the music that's more people are more focused on, or that's the music, right? It's country music, and Nashville really living in Nashville really reflects that. So, but yeah, I mean, there's all different genres in Nashville. Nashville's just a huge musical town, and there's different types of bands all over the place. But country is the main one for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I love the country music, and it's there's one particular artist that I love, the Brad Paisley. Brad Paisley for me is very I love his music, so it's quite interesting. And please.
No. I was just gonna say, country music is definitely where it's at in the South, and specifically in Nashville, Tennessee. That's the place to be for country music. But yeah, I mean, just country music that goes all the way back to Johnny Cash or
Johnny Cash. I think everyone should. I think everyone knows or should know Johnny Cash, because I mean, it's amazing. So
yeah, he's more. That's the thing. Like, he's crossed over. Those country musicians that have crossed over to different cultures. That's very heavy. That's a heavy heart, and it takes a special person to really to get into to cross over like that, and to kind of get into different cultures and people, even if they don't speak the language. They know who he is. They've heard a song. They can relate to his feeling and his tone and his mood. So I like that a lot.
Definitely. And let me ask you something that it's like probably a tricky question that I would like to ask you. That it's my personal question. That if you had to choose another country in Latin America to move, which country do you think you would move?
A different country, or in North America,
in Latin America. In Latin America.
Oh, Latin American country?
Yeah.
Ooh.
That's a tricky question, right?
That's a tough one. I don't know. That's a tough one. Maybe Peru. I don't know, or Colombia. I don't know. That's a tough one. Maybe Argentina. That's a hard one to say. That's a hard one to say. I would definitely have to. I would have to go there first. But it's because move, like to go somewhere and to move. But I would want to experience first to make sure I would want to move there. But I don't know. I think once you get somewhere, you know when you arrive somewhere, if that's the place that you're going to stay or if you're going to go. But yeah, that's a tough question. That's a tough one.
Yeah. Because I was thinking here during the session, I was like, I would like to finish with something very tricky, and I was like, let's say
that's a tricky one.
Because I mean,
I don't know. Maybe Chile, because just because what I've heard about that country as far as the weather and the agriculture there, I might be interested in going there because it's the opposite of kind of where I live now. I live in a very subtropic temperature setting, and it's warm here all year round. So maybe I go somewhere where it's colder, or where it's just something that's completely different.
Do you? I am thinking to move to Mexico because I don't get the cold weather anymore. The winter time is heavy. So, and you were trying to move to a colder place. Come on, no, don't do that.
No, I'm just to say, like, to move somewhere that would be completely in the opposite where I live now, because just for a different experience. But no, I don't miss cold weather at all. The winters in Nashville can be extremely cold and long and gray, and so I don't miss that at all. But I'm partial to warm weather, I think, in general. Yeah, no. Just thinking of some place that would be completely different than where I live now might be a nice change.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I mean, Chile, it should be an amazing place. So it's one of that countries that
That's what I
actually
get.
that you keep like, that's could be interesting, But when you start to realize, like, come on, there's so many amazing countries in Latin America.
I
Yeah,
know.
as you said,
I know, man.
you have to go there and experience it. It will be a very intelligent way to move. Like, go in each of those countries and experience the culture, because it will be a life changing experience, maybe.
Yes, for sure. I think any of those countries would be nothing short of a life changing experience
Mm-hmm.
to go to experience. There's so much to do in each country, right? Every country has their thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what. And when you go there, that's what you want to do. You want to do that thing.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So I mean, we already have like 1 hour of session that it was amazing. I would like to ask you to just first to finish this session. What message do you give, like, for everybody who is watching us here, and what do you want to close the session? Do you have anything that you want to say about the ones who is trying to move to United States, or the ones who is thinking, or who are already in the United States or moving back, or anything that you want to share with us in general?
I can close the topic. If you're moving to the United States, or if you're thinking about moving to the United States, I think that that's a great decision, and I think that you'll find something there, or you'll find your way there, because that's where you want to go, right? You've set your sights off for another country, and if you want to learn the language, that's the best place to be, because you're going to learn the language. Just like I learned Spanish in Mexico, I wanted to, but you kind of have to when you live in an unfamiliar country. So no, I think if it's your first time going to a new country, be open to things, be ready to experience new things, and interesting things, learning new things, trying new things. And the language is a big part of that. So the language will come with your experience, and just try to keep your confidence level, as even as possible. So you will put yourself out there and be able to learn the language maybe a little bit more efficiently. And as far as just moving around the world in general. I hope that I know right now we're living in a very different time, and traveling might be a little bit far away from some people. That might seem like something too far right now because the time that we're living in. But I hope that my traveling days are not over with. I still want to travel. I still want to go to different countries even after living abroad for the past 11 years, I really want to travel and go to different countries.
Mm-hmm. That's an amazing way to finish. To just don't like, this time that we're living, it will pass, and then we're going to go back to travel and get to know all the cultures that have around the world. That's an amazing thing, and be as you said, like, be open to experience these new things.
Right.
It's I think it's one of the great things that.
And also one important thing that I'd like to say is that traveling to another country gives you perspective about where you're from, about your country. Definitely. So you definitely get perspective about where you came from when you go to different cultures and you go to different places and you experience different things. You get a totally different perspective on your life and where you're from. So that's also something that I love about traveling and going to new places.
Yeah, definitely. Couldn't agree more with you. That's so true. And yeah, amazing. That's super true. And well, I think we're coming to an end. I would like to say, guys, if you like to have a class with Paul, we just put the link here in the description. It's just here. Just click and send him a message and schedule a class with him. and we already put in here as well a promo code, so you already have like a free first class and the 35% discount. It will be available for just 3 hours before this session, so just hurry and click here and enjoy this session with Paul, and I think it will be amazing for you guys to share more knowledge and whatever you want to talk. And he can speak Spanish, so don't forget about that. And guys, I would like to thank you very much for being here today. And if you like, put a comment, put a like here, and share with your friends. And if you have any idea, just share with us here in the comment. And see you guys next week. And thank you very much, Paul, for having us here and for your time with us.
This is great. Thank you.
All right, so hasta luego a todos. Hasta luego. Muchas gracias.
Hasta luego. Gracias.